There's been a lot of arguments over whether or not Kingdom Hearts 3 is a good game or not. I'm on the side with it not being good. With its convoluted, aimless story, empty levels, simple combat, and uninventive difficulty progression, I feel like this game lacks a lot of things and doesn't feel complete. Hey, Don't Break here, and today we'll be going over why I think Kingdom Hearts 3 isn't a good game. This will be broken down into two parts. The first part will be about the gameplay, and the second part will be about the story. Kingdom Hearts 3 plays like a hack and slash hybrid, or somewhat like one. You have the usual attack button, magic, form changes, and team attacks, which are your situational commands in the game. And a new situational command called attractions. You also have links, focus attacks, and flow motion. Attractions are like rides you'd see at Disney World. Use them in combat to defeat enemies, and you get them by damaging an enemy with the green circle around them. I wouldn't be surprised if these are going to be used most in speedruns toward the beginning of the game because they do so much damage, and even later in the game they don't weaken. They're just too good and make fighting the Heartless a joke. It's cool how they change the gameplay, but they mess with the flow of the combat. I haven't gotten much use out of them, but links basically are that you summon a character from a Disney or Pixar movie, and you do damage with them. They also change the flow of the combat, but an example of a link is you summon Simba and you jump around the combat area and you do damage and roar and stuff. But to use a link, it uses all your MP, which basically the only thing that you're going to use your MP for other than that is to heal. And you should always have your heal available. So using links they're not useful. Links aren't useful. Flow motion is a type of attack that you can use to do more damage to enemy. So basically you air dash to a pole or something, and then you press X, the attack button, and you swing off the pole and do a circular AoE attack to the enemies around you. You can also do this by not jumping towards a wall, but air dashing towards a wall and pressing X when looking at an enemy. Focus attacks, basically you hold R1 and you aim at enemies and you lock onto them, and then when you press X you shoot stuff at them, or you slash at them with your keyblade. It depends on which keyblade you're using. The coolest situational command you'll have is the form change, which basically you attack an enemy enough or enemies enough and you get an arrow, and once you get 3 arrows from doing enough combos, you can change into your second form. And this is all dependent on the keyblade you're using. Some forms have different outfits, well, not different outfits, but different colorings of Sora's new outfit, and they're pretty cool, but some of them are just the same color. So it's they kind of got lazy after a while doing the form changes. But they're still a cool addition, and they fit well with the combat and the flow of it, compared to everything else. All this sounds like it'd make an active great combat, but it doesn't, because mashing the X button until you get a form change, team attack, or an attraction works much better than using any of the new mechanics like flow motion or focus attacks, or even links. And like I said earlier, the attractions interrupt the flow of the combat. They're not everything but the X button. Your basic attacks and form changes really throw off the flow of combat, and even some form changes throw off the flow of combat, like Hercules' second form change. Once you finish, you ride a Pegasus and you press X and you shoot lightning at enemies. But it's you're just mashing X again, and the camera's on Sora, so you can't see any enemies around you. You're basically just watching Sora as you mash X, but you know enemies are dying. It's not rewarding. It's really just stupid and really weird design. The lack of need to use anything but the bare bones and be active in combat makes the gameplay feel like you're just doing the same thing the whole time, which is mashing X. It isn't captivating, and you don't have to make changes in your gameplay unless you just want to look cool. I mean, towards the end of the game, you're going to be pressing the block button a lot more, but other than that, you're not going to be changing your gameplay. You're not going to be using links more. You're not going to be using flow motion more. You're just going to be mashing X continuously. And another reason this is so bad is because it makes all the enemies, except some bosses, feel like training dummies. And you might say it's because Sora is already so strong, story-wise. But if that's the case, then that just makes this bad story and game design. Because that means the creators didn't care to make the enemy strong enough to be a challenge for the player. There's another combat system that's barely worth mentioning, and that's the on-the-rails shooter system. It's just bad. It feels like an afterthought. I don't even know why it's in the game. The Gummy Ship gameplay isn't much better either. You can roam free and fight Heartless in space, but the space fighting is just terrible. Like, even compared to Kingdom Hearts 2, like, this is just bad. It's just bad. It's weird to say, but the Gummy sections feel like they have more substance than the actual worlds that you go into, like the Frozen world or the Tangled world. But I'll bring this point up back later. With the new Gummy ships, like the Gummy system, you can craft your own ship, which is really cool, and you can get like special ships and stuff. So they did pretty well in the Gummy area, except for the combat. Now I'm gonna talk about endgame content, so there's gonna be some spoilers here. Well, minor. It's not really story spoilers, so don't worry about it. The actual Keyblade gameplay doesn't get okay until the end of the game, when you finally get to fight the organization members in all versions of Xehanort, Xemnas, Ansem, and all those dudes. Though even in these fights, you'll still be using the attack button more than anything. The only difference with these fights is that you'll be using the block button more than you had to in like any other fight. The fight with Luxor is the best because it uses creativity. You finally get punished for mashing X, because if you go into this fight mashing X, then you're just gonna end up getting blown up and you'll die. Basically, the fight with Luxor is you have to find Luxor among cards, and the area that you're fighting is surrounded by cards. So you have to keep hitting these cards until you find Luxord. But if you hit too many cards, then you get blown up. So this fight requires you to pay attention to the cards, because you have to figure out which one's actually Luxord, which you can see by the way the card moves. But unfortunately, this creativity isn't carried over into the other fights. The 3-phase armored Xehanort boss fight would have been really cool if blocking in the air didn't have so much end lag. This causes you to get hit by this blast he does multiple times, and you have to deal with this in the first and third phase, so it's really bad. And the regular Xehanort fight is only better because you won't feel like you've been cheated when you die because of end lag. Now let's go over the level design. I'll preface this by stating that I've never had an in-depth course on level design. I'm not a level designer, I'm none of that. But I've played plenty of video games, so I know a thing or two about it. Every world in Kingdom Hearts 3 has nothing in it. They lack character, and the levels feel like they're made to go through once, because there's nothing to explore. Like, I understand that this is not an open world game, so I'm not expecting that. But even a lot of open world games have more to their world than Kingdom Hearts 3 has to their basic levels. Like, that's actually ridiculous when you think about it. Out of the 8 levels, San Fran, Tokyo, Caribbean, Frozen, Tangled, Winnie the Pooh, Toy Story, Monsters Inc., and Olympus, Toy Story is the one that has it looks the best and it has the most to look at, but it's still empty. There are a couple of chests to find the worlds and emblems and stuff like that, but That doesn't make up for the lack of content in these worlds. Remember the challenges in Olympus and like KH2? Yeah, that stuff is what is really needed here. Like there's nothing in these worlds. At its core, Kingdom Hearts is a hack and slash. We waited more than a decade for an actual sequel to Kingdom Hearts 2. A bunch of hack and slash hybrids have come out since. Games like DMC, God of War, Metal Gear Rising, all innovated in the hack and slash genre. Kingdom Hearts 3 falls flat when compared to the gameplay in these games. It doesn't feel like a Square Enix game. This feels like the developing team looked at how many people like made games on Steam with the Unreal Engine and said, "Hey, we'll do that just to put the game out." This game should be called Kingdom Hearts Early Access. They added all these new mechanics before polishing the core gameplay. There's nothing for you to do in levels, but after beating them, and they feel thrown together. I think Kingdom Hearts is a bad game, and you shouldn't buy it unless you're a diehard of the series. Next week I'll go over Kingdom Hearts 3's story and why I think it's in shambles. Not necessarily like the overarching story, but the story of Kingdom Hearts 3 itself. So, tune in for that next week. Like, comment, and subscribe. Hopefully you like this video.